Hey there, welcome to SharkCast, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. We are here. It is game week. I cannot believe it. We're here for another year, another successful year. The show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the legends at the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. Massive weekend over there with NRL, pizza, beer, and of course, our friend Jason Hawes at Cripps and Cripps Real Estate, absolute legend. Thanks to those guys and girls for getting on board. And another year of SharkCast. We've been with you for about 25 episodes already this year. There's a million more coming. Last night we dropped my dream episode, and I hope it went all right. Nick Graham, finally got him. Nick Graham, interview is up, audio, the video will be up possibly today on sharks.com.au. Keep your eyes on that one. It'll be very soon. But Nick Graham is available in audio fashion, and it's a great story. Now, on the other end of this line is a man who needs very little introduction because this is actually his show, Catching Up with Kieran over coffee about Cronulla. I have my coffee from Mr. Paisley's. I'm not sure if Kieran has one. He's probably had about 3 already. Welcome to the show, Kieran Fraser.
Oh, wow. Is that the first time I've got a round of applause? That's pretty exciting. Oh, wow. How are you, Sammy?
Good. Excited to be here. It's snuck up on us, I guess, in a strange way, but I'm ready to rock.
I was just thinking the last time we actually sat down and spoke, that wasn't like text messages, or we spoke on the phone at the start of the year when the last day when you can wish somebody a happy new year was. Yes. But outside of that, I think the last time we spoke was Christmas Eve. So it's been a while since we've done one of these. I know we've tried to do a couple and I've let you down a few times with the schedule, but the good thing about the rugby league season is it forces me to structure my life a lot better, and it forces my wife to give me an opportunity to watch the Sharkies. So we're getting a bit more routine, a bit more rhythm, and looking forward to it, mate, because I think it's going to be a really good year for the Sharks if we can get a few things right.
Absolutely. We'll get into all that. We should point out that it is exactly 1 year, more or less, which isn't exactly, to the time when you and I had very expensive bourbon and Cokes, because you couldn't have coffee, but you could have bourbon for some reason. And we recorded this very important episode that we do most weeks with you in the foyer of the Cosmo. Yeah, and we had Cosmo prices. We love the Cosmo, love the owners if they're listening. And that was a year ago, my friend. Can you believe all that?
I honestly can't believe it was a year ago. And I was in Vegas a couple of weeks ago and just walking through, and I was looking for like the NRL type stuff, and it just didn't feel the same. And I thought, you know what, like that Vegas trip was so much fun. And I know the talk of the global round is coming up, and I really hope the Sharkies get a start somewhere. And I hope that we can go somewhere together. And it's not going to be a place that is such a miserable place for me personally, because I go there for work a lot, and I can actually go out and enjoy it. Because I was actually thinking the other day, like, I did nothing during those days. Like, I just slept. So it would have been pretty boring for people like yourself and Josh and Dave if they wanted to hang out with you. So I apologize about that. But, hey, maybe we get to Dubai, but that might not be a good place to go at the moment.
Yeah, I'm putting my hand up not to go to Dubai at the moment, and I'm thinking there's a lot of places that probably will be off the radar for a while. We did send you a lot of messages during that trip, and you were only available in certain windows. It was like we were hanging out with some sort of rock star or something, which you are, to be fair. But it was a fantastic trip. There's a lot of pros and cons people are throwing out post this weekend with the Vegas just happening in round 1 for this year. And it's one of those things, unfortunately, if you haven't experienced it, you probably don't realize how great and fun all the positives it can bring. And I appreciate that. I appreciate if you can't get there. It was certainly tough for a lot of us just to, afford it. So the whole round 1 thing next year's got me shaking in my boots already, saving my pennies. But we'll wait and see on that because we've got a whole year ahead of us. But I did sit back and admire what the NRL did yesterday. Like, it was pretty cool.
It was a lot better as well having the 3 games, whereas last year there was the 4 games, and like that really stretched the day out. And the atmosphere was pretty good in that. It was weird because I don't know if we're going to do our top 8 predictions or anything like that, but I have a little bit of a bee in my bonnet about the Bulldogs, and I think the talk about the Bulldogs. And I found myself cheering on the Dragons, which is probably something that I've never done in my life, right? And I realized what a lose-lose situation that was for me. So I was hoping for a draw. The Dragons got dudded with that call at the end. So, fingers crossed doesn't happen to us.
there was about 8 calls that got dudded by, to be fair. And I thought it was a pretty even game. It wasn't a great game. I enjoyed the game before a bit better, but I thought that, yeah, definitely dudded on a lot of calls. And I was cheering on Atco for the field goal. I was cheering on Valentino for the field goal. Shame they didn't quite get there. The Dogs, everyone's feeling that way because the Dogs probably didn't deserve to win that game. Now they did, and credit to them. In the, cometh the hour, cometh the Crichton, who probably should have been off the field anyway. But yeah, I sent around a text saying we would have smashed all 4 of these teams. So it's round 1. They'll get better. They will get better. But yeah, I wasn't overly impressed.
And look, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but I just think when you start listening to all these people give out their top 8s and fan predictions, you can really see the agendas, right? So if you look at the Bulldogs, they are 0-3 in the finals after 2 years with Serraldo in the last 2 years, right? So I know Serraldo was there in the first year, it wasn't that great. But the narrative around the Bulldogs is not that they can't win big games.
No.
Even though if you look at how they finished the back end of last season, the only game they really won in that back core of the season was when Penrith laid down. We took the finals intensity in the last round and just wiped the floor with them, right? So my point there is when you listen to some of these expert predictions and all that type of stuff, sometimes just look at it logically because sometimes a bit of bias gets in there and the narratives for the same sort of situations that teams find themselves in is wild. Like we have people predicting the Dolphins are going to finish in the top 4 because they beat Melbourne and a couple of other big teams last year. But if you look at their season, they weren't consistent at all. Then you have these same people saying the Sharks might finish 7th because we dropped those games at Origin, when it totally discounting the back end of our season where we kind of got our together and got that momentum, right? So if you use that excuse for why the Dolphins could make the jump, but then you're saying the Sharks are going to go backwards, like it's just a weird time of year to be trying to do ladder predictions. But I don't know if you've done it. It's terribly tough. And I started doing my own top 8 with my friend group and I deleted it because I didn't want anyone to see because I realized how hard it is.
It's kind of impossible. And Newcastle showed yesterday they're going to be an improved team. I'm not saying they're going to be there, but they showed they're not going to be a wooden spoon team, right?
Why was everybody off Newcastle? I get they had a terrible finish to last year, but they brought in Dylan Brown. They had a young Trey Mooney who's come in with a lot to prove on a 4-year deal. They've got Ponga back. They're healthy for once. I don't know why they were such outsiders against the Cowboys of all people. And did you see the Cowboys' body language on NRL 360, by the way?
You're leaving out the biggest factor, and that is Justin Holbrook.
Yeah, that's another great point, right? So I think the Knights will be good, and there's going to be a lot of bad teams from last year that are good, and we faced one of them in round 1 at the Titans, right? The Titans are going to be absolutely firing for when they play the Sharks, right? So
we'll get to that.
It's going to be such an interesting season this year,
but your point stands is that you really we can make all the predictions we want. There's probably only a few things you can be certain of, and that'll be probably Penrith, Melbourne, maybe Brisbane will be up there. We should be, but we're not sure. So everything else is just let's throw it out in the air. And it's good for people who create content, for people who love to consume. Like there are a lot of people. I know people complain about people like us who just throw out our stuff every second day about the Sharks, but people consume it. People want it. They want to hear stuff. So I've got no problem with what you're talking about, but you do have to take it on board that it's February or whatever, and we're talking about October 4. So I understand the problems.
Just on your point about content, I usually have podcasts playing in the background while I do some work. And I know that you've reshared a couple of these posts, but the Chad Townsend interview with Jack Bird, absolutely phenomenal. And you can watch Jack get pretty emotional when he starts talking about his exit of the Sharks, if he had his time over, and a couple of other different bits in the journey that he went through with the Sharks. And he even talked about how he hated the Sharks as a kid because, he was in the Dragon system and all that type of stuff. But if you haven't watched that Jack Bird, Chad Townsend podcast, chuck it on after this because it's a really good journey. And I think we've spoke about this before, but I remember exactly where I was standing when that news broke that Jack was leaving the Sharks to go to the Broncos. It was like right before Easter. I was at Taronga Zoo with my wife and I was in front of the elephants and it was like a death in the
You were like, throw me in there, Grace. Just throw me in. I'm done.
Well, but then you think about it and you go, well, once Jack left, it was that sort of the string and the string was already pulled a little bit because we'd lost
Benny
Dennis, lost Barber.
Yeah.
And but once Jack, who was still so young and such a part of our future, and then it kind of allowed Val to kind of explore his options as well. And it was just never quite the same. And we had some really good years there, but it just didn't feel like that core got that run together. And I'm not blaming Jack for that at all, but it's one of those things. It's such a what if, because if Jack stays on a 4-year deal, does he get injured? Maybe, who knows? Does Val stay because his best friend is staying? Like, there's so many questions that go back to that decision. And it was such a huge point in the club that is being forgotten about because he went and had such injuries, and we went on and we had some great success, and we've had some great centers since. So, yeah, go check that episode out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, and it's a reminder for everyone to sort of think about what they post and what they say in heats of moment, because Jack Bird has copped it left, right, and center from certain sections of Sharks fandom. And in my eyes, okay, he made a poor decision with the Brisbane thing. His dad got involved a bit, but I was never up at night worried about what Jack Bird thought about the Sharks. Like, I saw what he thought about us in that grand final when he had a broken freaking shoulder and won us the comp. That's all that needs to be thought about and spoken about. And the fact that I'm glad you raised this about the interview is a great interview. And yeah, I know he hasn't had a great career since, but I mean, it's not for lack of trying. And he's actually, you know, I wouldn't say that I know Jack Bird, but back in the day, I knew him a little bit. And he was a terrific fella, terrific young fella, like cocky little thing, full of attitude, but a really nice, humble enough guy at the core. And I can't stand how he's been painted, man. Even in back then, like when he left, okay, he left. What am I going to do? Hate a guy for leaving a club? Give me a break. So and our man Chatty, who's copped it left, right, and center for different reasons over the past weekend, he will be interviewing, I believe, he's doing every single player from that year. So he's kind of stolen ideas from no, I take that back. He's taken ideas that others had on board to try and do, and he's going to do it, and rightfully so, because he's a part of that crew. So he does. I know Chad, for whatever reason, rubbed people the wrong way, and that's none of my business. But that interview and the interviews he does with the players are really, really good.
Yeah, and I think Jack said something great, and you could see it in his eyes, and I don't know if they edited it because he was getting emotional, but you could see they were getting a little bit glassy. And when he was talking about the Sharks and the club, he even said, I think he said the F word, but he's like, I still go for the Sharks. He's like, if the Sharks are playing and I'm watching TV, he's like, I go for the Sharks. He's like, he's still got that connection with us. And it's one of those things where I don't think certain players know how much they mean to hardcore Sharks fans. And sometimes, like I've said this to Fafita in the past, like, do you know what you actually mean to a lot of us diehards? Like, if you guys didn't, like, my life's still the same. Like, if they don't win that game in 2016, like, I've still got my kids and, you know, life's good.
No, your life's not the same. That's not true. Your life's not the same. It's
completely different, because I would have that hole that it just would never have been filled. And, you know, we haven't got back there since, and we don't know if we ever will get back there.
That's right.
We do. But, like, guys like Jack Bird, who played with one arm to get us over the line that day, has just kind of been forgotten about in history. And it's like, no, for us diehards, like,
Fecky had his knee broken in 8 places.
He had arthritis. He had to take years off when he was in the 15, 16s. Like, he went through a journey to get to that point. And I remember how excited I was when the Sharks signed him, because at the time I was doing a little bit of stuff with some junior players, and I had some guys that were at the Bulldogs, and he was at the Dragons. And basically the grand final was Jack Bird, who was the Dragons, versus the Bulldogs at the time. And he was the best. He was the best 16-year-old in the country, right? So when we got him at 18 or however old he was, it was such a big deal for us. And when you look at how that squad was constructed with veterans like Hyington and Lewis, but then young guys like Val and Jack, like, we took it for granted. Like, it's one of the best rosters, I think, that history will go down and show, because like that win streak they went on as well was unbelievable. Mate,
so I know you are aware of this, but we've started a very slow-moving series looking back at 2016. We've done 2 games, and both were with Benny Harlem. And in both episodes, which I urge you to go listen or watch, both of us and it will be every episode, you talk about the strength of the squad. It is crazy. It is chaos. So You know,
Coach
that
Baseball
is
was 18th man most weeks.
hard to replicate that. Joseph Paulo couldn't get a gig, really. It's hard to have one of those squads every year, let alone every 5 or 10 years. So, yeah, we know how good that squad was. Kieran, I should point out it's autumn. I've got my long sleeve flannel on just for the occasion. It's autumn. I know it's still a bit humid around, depending where you live.
Is it really autumn?
It's March. That's how it works.
Hey, well, it's no longer summer, which is unfortunate. But hey, congratulations. We have the best beach in the country. And did you notice that they specifically did not say Cronulla Beach? They called it the Bay Beaches.
Yes. And did you know when they said Bay Beaches, I went, where the hell is that? Oh, I had a look. That's where I go 3 times a week. Well, you're a very smart man. I'm not.
Well, so because again, I'm not from the Shire. I'm an imported Shire.
We let you in, yeah.
I grew up on the Central Coast, and I think the Central Coast has some of the best beaches in Australia. I love the Central Coast. Very proud to be from the Central Coast. And when I came to Sydney, I was kind of like, these beaches, they're not that great, like in Sydney. But once you get down to the Shire, we have a 4-wheel drive beach, which is part of Bait Bay. You've got, North Cronulla, which is, really cool. You've got the Shelley and Oak Park. You've got Gunnamatta Bay. Like, you have so many different experiences that when I came to the Shire, I kind of felt like this is like home. And when I go to the beach, and my wife loves going there, and we go there most weekends in summer, we only go to Oak Park and Shelley Beach, like down that section of Cronulla. And like, that is like you're in a different world down there. So I love that the Shire is getting that recognition, because there is so many great spots that aren't just across from Northies, for example, where you look at it and go, well, this is, it's just a normal beach. But the fact you can go forward driving, the fact that you've got the rock pools and you've got all the different stuff down there. I even heard that there was a killer whale in Port Hacking a few months ago. So there you go.
Killer whale?
Yeah, chasing some seals. So I was down there.
Oh, is that why it's a killer? Because it kills seals?
Well, I think they're called orcas now. I think it's frowned upon. Like, I'm not going to use the word, but like, I think when the term for short people changed, you weren't allowed to use some of those terms. I think the killer whales was the same thing, right? So I think that they're now orcas only.
It always comes back to you with like
sharks,
mammals that kill people. Always. I'm a big Allura guy, just quietly. Big Allura guy.
Well, that used to be walking distance from my last house. If you have been watching us on YouTube and you've noticed I've changed offices, like that was within probably about 500 meters from my old place. And I used to love going down there. Never go down there anymore. But I do like that cafe, and I saw the Sharks were all there this morning too. So
really,
yeah, they were all down there. I don't know if there was some sort of a session they were doing at the beach, but I think Mr. ULA put up some photos that they were down there,
because they pretty much frequent our mates, Mr. Paisley's exclusive. I can confirm, like they are just
they're always there
en masse. Yeah, it's kind of fun. You got to be sort of you don't have to be, but if you're a bit awkward like me, you got to choose what you wear necessarily every day, because it's like I don't want to necessarily wear the kit every day and then see the boys. I mean, I've got no problem with it. They know I'm a diehard. Anyway, enough about you and I. Let's talk about the Sharks. Let me get your opinion on co-captains. You happy? Not happy? What's going on? Happy, Pappy?
I just don't know if it's necessary at this point. Like, I mean, it's an absolute mark of respect for Cameron McInnes, and I think it speaks volumes for what Fitzgibbon and the club think of Cam. But there is a reality too, and I know we'll talk about this later, but we've just signed Jesse on a 4-year deal. We've let Siffer walk for a great opportunity. Colquhoun is the 13 moving forward. So he should be the starting player there, because we've made that big investment. But again, it's based on each week and who's the best player for that game. Blake has proven himself as a leader, but I just think it's such respect for Cam that they're like, no, while Cam is in a Sharks jersey, he is a definitive leader of this group. And I don't think the players have a problem with it. I think the players love Cam. And it was interesting, if you've listened to some other podcasts around players talking about Cam, there was a lot of talk when he was at the Dragons that he didn't quite fit in, that he was too intense and too serious. And I think Ronaldo spoke about this. Ronaldo was like, I didn't know what to expect. I think it was Ronnie. It might have been somebody else. Maybe it was Toby Rudolph. But all the players to a T said how much they absolutely love him and how much he absolutely brings the intensity and standards that they all love. And they like, he can take a joke. We don't know what was going on at the Dragons, but it also, if you look at the Dragons roster at the time, you know, they were going through that COVID incident and there was a couple of characters there that probably wouldn't fit the current mold that we have at the Sharks. So I can see why we are definitely keeping Cam in that role. But for mine, and I think the playing group, but again, I'm not in there, I think Blake's the leader there now. Don't you?
I think it's still pretty split. Like, I think Blake is a leader now more than what he was last year, but I think they're still.
Oh, Cam's up here too.
Yeah, I think they are co-sharing. That's what the whole thing's about. Just quietly, did you know old mate Paul Vaughan from the Drags, you know, he had 2 barbecues in Australia over a couple of years and got in trouble. He had a third one in England, and there was further, I don't know if there were arrests, but further like police sort of visitations at a barbecue. And I thought my mates at work were razzing me, but it's all factual. The man loves a barbecue. And then if you go to a Paul Vaughan barbecue, usually something crazy is going to happen.
Well, I bought a barbecue over summer, but I haven't connected it yet because I do see possums around my house, and Caringbah South is full of possums. And I don't want the possums to get into my barbecue, so I'm too scared to set it up. So perhaps if I want some barbecue food, I'll avoid Paul's barbecues.
Isn't it enclosed, though? It's not an enclosed one.
So it's a Weber.
Oh.
So it's not like a built-in system, but I bought a Weber for this place, and I feel like there's multiple entry points, and if I'm cooking food out there, I feel like I'm going to be enticing the possums, and you can't do anything about possums because they're native. So you can't move them along. You kind of just have to bear them, right? And they drop a lot of feces. My back deck is full of possum feces, and I've even found it in the pool, which is quite alarming because you don't want to swim in possum poo.
Boy, this show
First world problems.
This show is all over the shop. Now, I have no problem with the co-captains. I kind of thought they'd go that way, so I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. I'm not upset. I'm not disappointed. If they'd gone just Brayley, I would have gone, yep, that's the future. If they'd gone just Cam, I would have gone, well, he's out for 5 to 10 weeks anyway. That's a bit weird. Blake's going to have to be the captain anyway then. So I think it's the perfect move. I've got no problem with it. I'm not a co-captain kind of guy myself. I do like the one person, but I can completely understand it. I didn't give it much thought after it was announced, except to say I think he's got it right. So I'll stick with that.
Do you think Cam's going to start majority of the games at 13?
I think when he's back for, say after 5 games, say he comes back in round
10. Let's just say round 10. So he's coming back at round 4. So by round 10, do you expect him to be at 13?
Oh, no, I'm saying say he comes back in round 10, just for whatever example, and by round 15, I think once he's had 5 games under his belt, there might be an opportunity there to kind of switch it around if Jesse, maybe they want to see what it's like with Cam starting and Jesse coming off the bench. Maybe Jesse's played amazing, hard physical football for 13 games, 14 games, and they want to give him a bit of a rest, then Cam, and they could switch it around. I don't think it's locked in, excuse the pun, that Jesse will necessarily start every game once Cam is back. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I think he's going to kill it. I think he's going to be amazing. But I just think that people are kind of talking down Cam a little bit. I'm not saying you are, but people are forgetting that he's a pretty good footballer. And last year he was pretty good for us. I know he's not the biggest guy, but he's certainly one of the toughest. And when he does the hit-ups, he's not really getting driven back. Now, he doesn't necessarily have the same ball skills that Jesse has. So it depends what kind of game they want to play. If they're playing a really physical team, although Jesse is very physical, but if they want to throw Cam out there for the start, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But I think the future is Jesse, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and I just look at how we changed the style of football once Cam went out last year. And I look back as well and I go, when was Cam's best football at the Sharks? And I think it was when we had Finucane starting at 13 and we had Cam coming off the bench. And I know we'll talk about the 6-man bench later, but Cam has such an ability to come off with that fast leg speed. He'll make 100 tackles for you. He will fix any deficiencies for any tired middles that we have at that point. To bring him on after 20 minutes and leave him on for, say, 60, I don't see too many negatives there. And I really like the power game that we have. And I think we'll touch on this more when we talk about the benches. Size is our biggest friend. And I think if you look at kicking down the front door of teams is when the Sharks look their best. It's when Toby's coming off the back fence. It's when Hamlin Uele's doing, or Braden Uele is doing absolute havoc through the middle off the back of a Fanua Blake, and you've got Kafusi and like just these huge humans that you've got. I still feel like we need to lean into that more because I feel like that feeds what Blake does more with him getting out the dummy half and bringing those big bodies onto it, which then frees up Nico and Trindle. So, look, I've got no problem with Cam starting at 13, or I'm not saying that Jesse is a better player in 2026 than Cam is. 2027, I would probably put my money on Jesse if he continues to develop. But I think in 26, I think styles make fights, and I think we've got to lean into our size. And I'm going Jesse to start at 13.
So my only concern with the two of them sharing the role, and I'm hoping to chat to Jesse this week. We'll see how time goes on air. But I want to know ideally how long he wants to play in a game, because when I think of lock forwards, I honestly don't think of them sharing a role or splitting the time. I just don't. I got Paul Gallen. I got Isaiah Yeo, the chap from Souths. Like, that's the lock you want to have. And I think Jesse ultimately could do it. He's got big minutes in him. Now, whether you want to ask that of him in his first sort of big year in that role, maybe second year, depending how you want to look at it, maybe it's too soon. I'm not sure. But that would be my only thing with not having Cam split the role with him, is that I don't want to chew up. I don't want to keep minutes away from Jesse.
Yeah, and look, I just chucked it into Google right now, and so they've obviously, we'll probably touch on this a little bit more now because we're on the Jesse topic, but we've re-signed Jesse for 4 years, is it? Jesse will be on October 12th this year. He'll turn 25.
Yeah.
Now, he's only played 29 games. Now, majority of those have been off the bench. I don't think has he started? I don't have that.
I'm sure he has.
He's probably started a handful of games. And if you look at last year, that was probably when he started the most. He played 18 games last year. The best he had played before that was 6 games in 2023. So to the point earlier about, Cam is still a really good footballer and we need to kind of calm our farms a little bit. Absolutely there, because the Bears went hard for Jesse, and the Bears put a tremendous offer, and he took less to stay for us on a great deal and all that type of stuff, which is magical. But the reality is 29 games at he's 24. He'll turn 25 at the end of the season. It's kind of now is the time where we want him to step up and to fill that position. And there's a few guys that are in that sort of role for us at the moment, where you look at a guy like Teague Wilton, right? So, Sam, just off the top of your head, how old do you think Teague Wilton is?
He would be 24, 25.
See, that's what I was thinking, right? But, of course, my internet now is going much slower than what I would have liked. But I believe Teague turns 27 this year.
Is that right?
I believe so. So, yeah, he's 26 now. He'll be 27 on the 25th of September.
Time is now.
Yeah, so Teague is now at that age. Jesse's kind of at that age. Teague's obviously played a lot more football than Jesse. When we look at what Craig Fitzgibbon has been saying about the club and about getting more out of players, I think that's a real good metric, right? Because if you look at Blake Brayley, Blake had won our Player of the Year 3 years prior to last season, right? We kind of thought Blake was really good. He was our best player for the last 3 seasons before last year. We thought that was his ceiling. His year last year was exponentially higher than anything he had ever put out before in front of us, right? And I think if you look at guys like Jesse and Teague, I feel like this is the year where we need them to make that jump because, and I know I'm going a little bit off topic here, but for Teague, right, this is the year where he either becomes a really good first-grade player, which he's definitely proven, or he becomes a rep player. And I know that there's been some changes to Origin and we might see Nakora and AFB in that arena. But for Teague, the expectation should be for him is that he makes these rep teams too. And we wouldn't give a 4-year deal to Jesse unless we saw that in his future as well, right? So I think we need to start seeing some of these players go to that next level. And a guy like Blake Brayley, who turned 27 last year, he made that jump as well, right? So guys like Teague and Jesse that are in that 25 to 27 range, Blake has proven that you can make that jump around that period.
Yep. Well said. Let's move on to one of our next topics. Bye Talakai, officially a Perth Bear next year, not this year, but next year. A round of boos for all that. Now, I'm going to say I completely understand where the club's coming from. I think that if the club sees Sifa as a amazing bench player, which he is, there's only so much room in the cap to spend on a bench player. Now, I'm not saying they don't see him more than that, but that's just how they play him. He does start when there are injuries. I'm disappointed that we're letting him go out of all the guys off contract. But I need to flip the coin and go, Perth offered him a lot more money and a lot more years. Like, it's just something they have the luxury to do. You look at their squad that Perth have signed, and aside from maybe 2 or 3 other guys, they are all fringe first graders, respectfully, and they would all be on close to what would be a minimum wage, which is, more than I earn, but a minimum wage, which doesn't chew up your salary cap. And it means guys like Chris Vale, can go over there and make a good living, get a couple of years. I'd say he might have even, I don't know, maybe he's not on minimum. Maybe he doubled his wage. I don't know, but it's still not anything that's going to stop the Perth Bears from signing other players. But with Sifa Talakai, this veteran who's played rep footy, who single-handedly can win you games, they needed to throw money at him, and they did. And he ummed and ahed about it. He tried to stay loyal, but sometimes you just cannot fight the man. And so disappointed he's going. Hard to replace. Like, I truly believe he has that ability that not many in the NRL have. His cousin has it. There are obviously other tough guys in the NRL, or they're all tough, but you know what I mean? Bustling, breaking tackles. But he's got a really unique stature in the game. And I think that the Sharks boys next year are going to absolutely be not excited about having to tackle that guy. But he's off, and we wish him all the best. But I personally would not have let it happen, but I understand why it happened.
It's such a hard one, Sam, because I think if you were to rank my top 10 Sharks players of all time, like favorites, not saying best, but favorites, I think
you love the best,
yeah. Sifa probably makes my top 10 just for his ability to come off the bench and to win us games, like you said. I was saying on one of the forums a couple of nights ago that game against Manly is probably one of my top 5 nights of the football that I've ever had. For that riot that everything he touched was just absolute fire. And it sucks to lose him. It's going to be really hard. But at the same time, as a fan base, we have been screaming out for change. We've been screaming out to bring in new players, to sign new guys, to do this, to do that. And we're starting to see that. And Sifa, unfortunately, will not be the last guy that leaves this squad because of the amount of players that we have off and the quality that we have. So my hope is that this lights a fire under these guys, that they realize that this is their last chance saloon. This is probably Sifa's last chance to win a competition, because going to the Bears, and Melbourne did it in their second year or whatever, but that's not the norm, right? Look at the Titans, look at the Dolphins, who are building nicely. It's very hard to get these teams up and running, but Sifa is a tremendous signing for the Bears. He will give them culture from day one. He gives them a standard setter. He gives them a guy who can break open a game. And from a Sharks perspective, you look at it and you go, Sifa turns 29 in April this year. So next year, he'll be 30 in April, which basically he'll spend all next year as a 30-year-old. Well, he's played 122 games for the Sharks at the moment. We'll hopefully get 20 plus this year. So around that 140 mark, we got the best years of his career. And I think we should be really happy for him, because it sucks that we can't keep him. But, he's had a tremendous career at the Sharks. And I can't begrudge a guy going and getting a great deal like he got to go to Perth. And remember, they were in for Jesse too, right? And Jesse's 5 years younger. And the club looks at that and goes, well, who do we think is going to be a better player in, say, 2028, for example? And my money would probably be on Jesse as well. But that doesn't mean that I think Talakai is going to fall off a cliff, because I think Talakai will be great for Perth for all those 3 years.
He's always going to be a good player. He might slow down a bit, but he's always going to be a good, solid player.
Yeah.
I think the fan base is more angry at, well, I don't know if angry is the right word, but disappointed at the club rather than Sifa. I haven't heard anyone bag Sifa, and I doubt they would. They'd be pretty stupid to do that. But yeah, all your points are valid. And the thing that caught my ear is, yes, the fan base cries out for change. Change comes and they blow up. And I think this will be the most significant out of the guys that everyone kind of goes, whoa, we didn't want him to go. But there's still some guys that will probably leave, and the fan base or some of them won't be happy. But I mean, you know, I'm still getting, I got a message on the weekend about Lockie Miller. Hey, Shanaz, Lockie Miller had a good game for the Super League. Yeah, I saw it. What do you want me to say? Like, we should have kept him? Like, give me a break. Like, we need to understand this is a business, and it's a business for the club and it's a business for the players. And I am the most, when it comes to sport, loyal person in the world. I would love to keep the same team for 13 years. You know that, but it's not reality. And we've had a pretty good shot at it with this team. It's been 4 great years, hopefully a 5th one, you know? So it happened. He was the guy we didn't want to lose, but most of us understand why. And if you don't, I appreciate that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't necessarily understand how I see the game, but from a money ball point of view, and from even from an almost player profile point of view, the way you put it with the age and everything, again, I wouldn't want to be tackling Sifa when he's 60, let alone when he's 33. but it's just one of those things. And I think we have to kind of just have some sort of understanding that Perth, we're going to get someone, you know, and they got the right guy, I think.
And if you look at some of the comments that I've seen online, they're sort of saying, well, I would have rather have lost this guy and this guy instead of Sifa. And the reality is we are probably going to lose this guy and this guy, as well as Sifa, to create spots for our local guys that are coming through in reserve grade and 20s and all that type of stuff. Like, we have a crop of players that is a level below the NRL right now that the club thinks they can get to that next level. And we have rolled the dice with this squad for 4 or 5 years, right? And to the point where we've not made one single signing for this year. Now, my whole thing with this is I want the club to be able to move on as quickly as possible from the noise that is going to come out of these contracts. Because if we're in April, May, June, and we're talking about these things, that's going to become a problem. So the fact that it's getting settled now is tremendous, and the club will do everything it can to sort this out. But to that point about the same, Jesse Ramian was on Chad's podcast as well, and he said, well, since the under-20s, I've been defending with Nakora on my inside and Katoa on my outside. So that gives us a real shot at winning this year.
I think that's a great thing. When he pointed that out, I was like, that's good. That's not a bad thing, because you can all play footy and you're all getting the prelims. Like, that's a great thing. Now, can it be forever? No, but
but to that point, Sam, right? So you this year you've got Katoa off contract and you've got Jesse off contract.
Yeah.
So if that combination that has been defending together since the 20s and attacking together since the 20s with Nakora, who is signed for an extra year as well, if we can't get the job done this year, then we have to look at making changes. And that's not a slight on those players, because those players are tremendous individuals. And Katoa, again, another Katoa Island, proud resident. Jesse Ramian was on the verge of Origin 2 years ago, looked great in preseason, playing for a big contract. But I'm sure you saw this rumor as well. Would you swap him for Zach Lomax?
Now, I'm laughing for different reasons. One of the reasons that comes to mind is it's not a thing.
It's not happening.
Right?
Yes.
That's someone who, again, with the content we were talking about at the start of the show, that's a what if, but someone left out the what if.
Yes.
That's not going to happen, right? The swap. B, can the Sharks afford what Zach Lomax wants? And who knows, to be fair, what the guy wants, because it changes every freaking day. Now, do you want someone like Zach Lomax? And I don't know the guy. He might be the sweetest man in the world. I'm not going to cast aspersions. But from a football business point of view, the guy's jumping out of contracts left, right, and center. That's not a Fitzgibbon kind of guy, right? Can play, no doubt. Is he a bit overhyped? In my opinion, yes, but he can play. But I don't think so, is my gut answer. If he came, I'd welcome him and say, go jump in the air and do some great stuff. But I don't think that's going to solve all of it. This is the thing, Kieran. It leads back to what's the next step? And I'm so sick of that. And you're going to hear me talk about how sick I am about that for the rest of the year. What's the next step? People are saying Zach Lomax is the next step. Wrong. He's not the next step. I'm sorry to break that to you. Zach Lomax is not the next step to winning grand final. No doubt in my mind.
Look, so I'm very proud of the playing group that we have. And I think we need one or two changes. Where I keep coming back to is I don't know where those changes need to be. Mm-hmm. Now, I think Jesse is an 8 out of 10 center, 26 rounds of the season, or 27, how many rounds there are, right? And same with finals, right? He's 8 out of 10 every single week, right? And as a club, we need to try and find how do we get past that line? And Craig Fitzgibbon has put in so much effort in development from within, and I back that because of what I saw with Blake Brayley. Because, again, he was our best player for 3 years, players player, and all that jazz. He went to the next level last year. Will Kennedy, for all he cops, has improved season on season. And Braden Trindle has improved season on season. I would argue as well, Nico is a more complete player going into round 1 of 2026 than he finished the year when he won the Dally M. I absolutely believe that. I think his kicking game is better. It still has some areas of improvement, but I think his general play is better. I think he's a calmer influence. I think his defense is worlds apart from where it was back then. He kind of caught a lot of people by surprise because we were doing those slingshots and there was like a second fullback and all that type of stuff. Teams worked him out. He's gone and studied his game. So I guess the point is it a center that changes it for us? It's probably not, right? Is it a fullback? Maybe it is, but is that an Ison or is that like a Jerome Buller? I genuinely don't know the answer, but the reality is once you send off a guy like Talakai out, you're sending out Vela, you're sending out, I don't know, let's just say we lose one of Toby and ULA, right? That's probably close to $800,000 plus worth of salary cap room. Now, we are going to be promoting from within. So I think that's the other thing that I think a lot of fans are probably going to get a bit frustrated and they're going to say, we're losing all these guys, where are the signings? But that's the same people then that go and complain if our under-20s fullback goes and signs with, PNG, for example, right? Yeah. So there's a balancing act there. But I think the club needs to work out what is that one kill switch that we are missing, because our back rowers are locked in with Teague and Nakora. Our front row is Fanua Blake, and we've got a pretty good rotation. I would argue we've probably got the best depth of props with Hazelton, Kafusi, etc.
We'll talk about that in a minute, yep.
In the game. Our number 9 is elite. Our halves are locked in long term, and one of them is a former Dally M winner. The other one is a guy that Andrew Johns was saying he would pay $800,000 to $1 million for.
I think it was $1 million.
Yeah. So, and again, I saw that clip. I think you might have liked it or reshared it, that Trindle is the guy that needs to step up the most this year. Our centers, Kaeliro is a top center. Yep. And our wingers in Katoa and Ronaldo are two of the best wingers. Our back 5 in yardage is great. So the point is, we're so close.
Yeah.
Where do you find that player that takes us over the edge? And I don't think it's Lomax, to your point, but I look at the squad and I go, where could it be? Because it's not going to be in our back row. It's not going to be our front row. It's not going to be in our spine. Where's it going to come from, Sam?
But are you talking 27 or are you talking 26?
Well, all right, I'm talking 27.
Right.
But for 26...
Because for 26, I've already explained what you do. You just win 2 more games. That's it. And I'm not talking about the prelim and the grand final. I mean, you win 2 games in the season and you're on your way.
Well, and this is what frustrates me about all this talk about the Dolphins should have been here and, the Bulldogs should have finished there. We bottled some really winnable games. And I think Fitzgibbon, and I've heard some other podcasts from the players talk about, that was the line in the sand moment after the Roosters game where they were like, what are we doing here, guys? Like
Roosters and Brisbane,
yeah, and the Brisbane one too, right? And I think it might have been with you where Craig was talking about that Brisbane game and how much it hurt. And again, if you look at where both those teams were at that point in the season and where they finished and where we finished, we didn't finish far away from them, but they kicked on and we didn't. Mm-hmm. And we went on a good run. But like they went to another level. And I look at it now and I say, I believe in the guys that we've got. Like I believe like Sifa can come off the bench and win us a game. I believe that Ronaldo can get a hat trick and win us a game. I believe that Trindle, Nico, Brayley can create points. I believe in Fanua Blake's going to be the best front rower on the field in any game we play. Our back rower is going to do a job. But we just need somebody to go to that next level. And honestly, Sam, it might be through the experience of guys like Nakora and Fanua Blake and Brayley now with Robson's injury playing State of Origin. Like, It sucks that we won't have them, but when they're playing in those pressure cookers and those environments with 80,000 people there and the stakes are so high, when they get to September, they'll be like, well, I've played finals football for 4 or 5 years now. I've made 2 prelims in a row. I've played Origin.
I'm not worried about a lot of things this year, Kieran. I'm not worried about when they get to the end of the year, they're going to freak out because they've been in high profile games now for 5 years or 4 years. So I'm not worried about that. They played a prelim in Melbourne, or a couple of them. They've played big stakes. I'm not worried about that. And they haven't exactly choked. They've lost games at the big level, but then they've won games at the big level. They've beaten Melbourne down in Melbourne. They've won at Magic Round. They've done a bunch of stuff. Guys have played rep footy in their own respective way. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I've got great faith in this player group that they can go all the way. I'm not saying they will, but they definitely can. They've proven it. They've gotten to within 15, 20 minutes of a couple of prelims. That's not another step. That's not another world away. People go on and on about it. It's 15 freaking minutes of a game. Like, that's not unreachable for these professional athletes. There's no reason why they shouldn't have been in a grand final the last 4 years. They just haven't, right? They've lost games. They've played better teams. There is nothing stopping these guys from doing what they want, in my opinion, for this year only. Next year's a different story.
Absolutely. And there can be a lot of roster change for us going into 27. So let's focus on 26 here. There was a few key moments in that game versus Melbourne where the class players of Melbourne got the job done.
Yep.
And they beat us, right? So losing to Melbourne in a prelim in Melbourne, like playing Melbourne in Melbourne and for a prelim final is one of the top 3 hardest things to do in rugby
life.
League.
So how do you stop that, Kieran? You win the extra 2 games and you're not playing down there. That's
exactly,
it.
Right?
Problem solved.
And you go back the year before that too, right? We made the prelim, and who did we face? Penrith in the middle of the Penrith dynasty, right? So my argument is
we didn't go too bad against them, no matter what people want to try and tell me in this day and age. Didn't go too bad against them.
And this whole narrative is so lazy around the Sharks that the Sharks play boring football because, again, if you look at
they don't.
We're
don't.
one of the best attacking teams in the competition. Like, we actually score a lot of points.
Aside from maybe some of the Lang years, I haven't had more fun watching a team. Haven't had more fun.
This team can blow teams apart. This team can score from anywhere on the field. We scored some great tries last year. Go back and look at South's game when Will Kennedy was doing that stuff from like our own in goals.
Crazy.
Ronaldo was 100-meter tries. Like, the narrative around the Sharks is from people that do not watch the Sharks. They watch the ladder and they go, they've got a soft draw. Now, this narrative around the soft draw is absolute. I'm not going to swear on this podcast because I know you don't like me swearing. No. But if you look at it, the draw changes every year because the teams get better and worse. If we're looking at some of the worst teams from last year, we're talking about the Titans, the Knights, etc. They've all improved. They've all gotten better. Yeah. Canberra last year was considered a soft team. They finished minor premiers. The Sharks last year had the hardest draw in terms of logistics and travel. And people now look at the Sharks and they say the lazy thing, Sam. They say, they got another soft draw. Nobody knows about what this draw looks like this year.
The only time I'll concede a draw is soft is when there's 5 games to go and you look at it and you can go, oh, well, those guys haven't had a good year. What a soft run in. Oh, that happened to us. What was it, the year before last, maybe? Like, I'll concede that, but A, that's not anyone's fault, and B, who cares? If anything, it disadvantages your team.
And I go back to the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs last year had one of the most absurdly soft draws that I have seen, but it is not mentioned in the media because, again, they have pieces at Fox Sports that are Bulldogs people, they have people at Channel 9 that are Bulldogs people, and they control the narrative. So, again, don't let it get spun. Don't let it get twisted. The Sharks are in
For-
this up to their eyeballs.
Yeah, for the Sharks to be considered a boring football team, that's interesting because I think in maybe 2 of the 4 years under Fitzgibbon, including last year, they've scored the second most points ever in their seasons in 51. How many years is it? Almost 60 years. So
60 next year.
So that's 2 of his seasons at least where they've been. And the only time it was better, I believe, I think it was 2016 was the only time they were better. There might have been another year. It might have been an Opes year. I can't quite remember. But I'm telling you, they've had near record-breaking attack in 2 of the 4 seasons under Fitzgibbon. That's not boring.
And so these people create these narratives. They'll create these clickbait posts. And the general unwashed NRL fan base will follow along with it.
But you know what? That's okay because you don't have to be bought into it.
That's what I'm saying to our fans. I'm saying
absolutely.
don't buy into this whole thing about the Sharks or this and that because I'm seeing people are saying the Sharks are going to miss the top 8, but at the same time they're saying the Sharks have the easiest draw in the NRL. So if we have the easiest draw in the NRL and we have the quality of team that we have, we're just coming off the back of 2 prelims. It's not as if we're South Sydney with a bunch of 35-year-olds that are depending on health to make it. No. We have depth throughout New South Wales Cup under 20s. This is an angry team, and I picked up a little bit from your podcast with Fitzgibbon where you talked about the attitude adjustment that the team went through. Shout out to John Cena. But there was a shift in the narrative around the Shire, and there was a level of intensity that was brought in, and that's what I think the Sharks play their best football, and that's why I buy into Colquhoun should be our 13. Because I want to kick the front door down of every single team that we played. Because I look at our middles and I go, we should be running over teams.
The coach said it. He said you can't do it every week. He said, but it's certainly their aim to do it. And I have to believe him. I don't often or at all talk about SharkCast's role in the Sharks community at large, but I will say, and I don't do it because people call me all sorts of horrible names, but I will say that I feel like what we do on here is we do calm the farm just a little bit. And it doesn't mean we're all in and positive, or we're all in, but it doesn't mean we're all 100% positive and only tell you good stuff and we don't look at bad stuff and we're all, we're in love with the club and the club loves us. None of that stuff is true. But what I will say is I think what we do on here is, like you just said, we can advise people about certain things. Like if you're looking at the media attention this way, look at it this way. Keep an open mind. This is why they're saying things. And I'll urge anyone to drop me a line and say, what do you think about this? What is the real reason? And I'll give you the truth. And I think that I'm very proud of what we're doing because I know there's, and one lunatic comes to mind who comes on the show after post-game shows, and I won't mention their name, but and that could be a number of people, so I won't get in trouble, but they're a lot of lunatics. But they, admittedly, took things too intensely and too and since hanging out in SharkCast community, they look at it a little bit differently. I'm really proud of that person for that reason. Let's move on because people are starting to write nasty things about me. 19-man bench.
Oh, yeah.
And our bench, I've been doing the math. Okay, so disclaimer. I just said how great our podcast is. It's not very good because the other day I did a podcast and I spoke about my starting and my bench, which I think was from Liam. I can't remember who it was, but someone asked me to do it. And I mentioned Tom Hazelton going, I think he'd be one of my guys. If not, he'd be on the bench. But then I left him out of my final kind of gathering, and everyone, rightly so, bombarded me with messages going, Shanaz, you left out Tommy. What's going on? And I was like, that's no good. So we're here to clarify that. I've written it down, so I can't get it wrong, I don't think. But Kieran, from my mathematics, there are 15 forwards eligible to play round 1, and I'm including Blake Brayley, so you can take him out if you want. There are 10, again, 9 if you include Blake Brayley, who can play, or they can have 11 on the extended bench. And I'm here to tell you, guys are going to miss out when everyone's fit and healthy. So here's who's available, right? Fanua Blake, Billy Burns, just say Blake Brayley, Braden Welly, Britton Nickera, Cam McInnes, Hohepa Puru, Jaden Beryl, Jesse Colquhoun, Oregon Kafusi, Riley Jones in a utility role, Sifa Talakai, Teague Wilton, Tom Hazelton, Toby Rudolph, right? So you got to try and fit them into your starting and then your bench. And even this year, you've got a 6-man bench, but you can only use 4. And that might become circumstantial depending on how the game goes. But I want to, between you and I, get down to what we think, in our opinions, who it should be. Now, I'm just going to go through mine, and you can comment, you can not comment, but I need to get mine out there because people think I don't like Tom Hazelton. I've got AFB starting, Blake Brayley at hooker. I am denying about this one, but for the moment, and obviously things can change, my opinion can change, but right now I've got Oregon Kaufusi starting. I've got Britton, Teague, and Colquhoun. And this is, I should point out, when everyone's fit. When everyone's fit. So Magical World, everyone's fit. So AFB, Blake Brayley, Kaufusi, Britton, Teague, Colquhoun is my starters. My immediate bench. So if nothing goes wrong, my immediate bench is Bye Talakai, Tom Hazelton, Toby Rudolph, and Braden Welly. So I've gone for the big bench. But what that means is my 18 is Cam McInnes, club captain. My 19 is Hohepa Puru. My 20 is the superhero Billy Burns. So I feel quite bad about all that.
Yeah.
Because I think that McInnes has every right to be there. I think Billy Burns has every right to be there. And I think Hohepa is really fighting hard. But as I said, it's a great problem to have. That's just the way I would go. How would you go?
So I think the most interesting point there for me, and I just jumped on the Sharks website just to pull up the whole roster because you always forget somebody like you
like Tom Hazelton. Yeah.
The Nick Graham interview is now live on the Sharks website. So
jump on there and you can go watch it. Watch me shake and shiver throughout meeting my teenage hero.
So look, I think when I look at the starting team, the forward pack is locked in. The only person I go, who do we change in and out here is the number 10 jersey, right? So who partners for Noah Blake?
Yeah.
Now, Toby looks his best when he's in short stints running like an absolute lunatic, like the Roosters game. Like that's the Toby that we want and the Toby that we need, where he's kicking down the door. And again, Toby's off contract. And he's been pretty vocal that he's out there trying to get a great deal for himself because, he's coming to the back end of his career. So I'm leaning into that, and I'm probably saying to Toby, and this is a little bit off topic, this is your last year at the Sharks, run through a front door for me. Go get yourself the best deal possible, but he's going to be my bench guy. So Kaufusi plays a really good role in the defense, and he's a really good foil for AFB. But sometimes we can see Kaufusi come off the field, and he's made 3 hit-ups for 27 meters, and everyone's gone, did we really get the best of Kaufusi there? I like it when we have Hazelton starting with Noah Blake, and we have that size to kick it off, especially with Colquhoun at 13. So I'm pushing Hazo into my 10, and I'm dropping Kaufusi back to, this sounds bad, but it's like the sea of players that we now have. Because if you look at that bench, what you've said, Sifa will be number 14, or whichever jersey he fits in, because he is an extremely large human. So he will be one spot on the bench. I've got Toby, another spot on the bench. I have Uele as another spot on the bench. Because, again, I want to play that power game. I want to kick down teams' front doors.
So you've only got one spot left.
I've got one spot left, right? So in the past, and this is where the frustration came from Daniel Atkinson last year, was he was on the bench to cover all the issues that we might have. Now, if you look at last year, Acko played, I think, 16, 18 games, something like that, maybe 20. The reality is with this new rule, I reckon Acko probably would have played like 5 because we would have made adjustments on the fly and we wouldn't have needed to play Daniel Atkinson at 13, for example, because he was not a 13. He did not fit that mold. So now that's kind of out the window. So for me, I think we're going to go another big bopper, and I'm probably going Kaufusi at number 17. But the reality is that spot is a shaky spot because there is also Cam that we've got there too. So he would be on the bench as well in my world. Billy Burns is also there. So if you have an injury to a Teague, he comes on instead of Kaufusi, or an injury to Nakora, Burns comes on, or Burns can even play 13 in the middle too, right? So now we have one spot left on the bench to get to the 20. And you've gone Hohepa, I probably would go a back, like a Hiroti. I probably am
Ah,
putting somebody in there that can play center, fullback, wing as an
interesting.
option. But the four guys I would be using out of my six-man bench would
Yes.
be ideally it would be Sifa, Toby, Ueli, and Cam.
And
That would be my
Cam.
four man that I'm bringing on because Cam still gives you the ability to fill in at 13, 9. You
So
could play that.
who's missing out? Kafusi's missing out.
Kafusi drops out of mine. Burns
Gotcha.
drops out of mine.
Okay.
And Hiroti as well would be my other guy because I think you need an out-and-out back for this. But at the same time, I don't want Hiroti. Well, Hiroti's going to the Gold Coast next year. He's an experienced guy. He's in his mid-20s. He can handle not playing football. It's not the end of the world. But I want to rotate that a little bit too. So I want to have an Ison on the bench as well. Like, let's say we get up by 20 points and there's 15 minutes to go. I'm bringing off Will Kennedy. I'm throwing Ison on. And this is what Queensland used to do during their run during State of Origin. They would throw on guys like DC. They would throw on guys like Cooper Cronk just to get them experience and reps at that high level. So I would run a three-man middle with one as my flexi. My flexi is probably going to be that Cam spot or Kafusi. And then I would also try and look to, like, is there a game where, let's say we're beating a team by, what a great world this would be, we're up by 30 points and there's 20 minutes left or whatever the case is. Do we have a young half that we want to give some reps to and get them out there? So if there is an injury to Trindle or to Nico in round 9, this guy has had a bit of experience in that as well. So I kind of think you have one future plan spot.
It's a good way to look at it. Like, you could have a Riley Pollard on the bench and then, bring him on for 10 minutes. There's no harm in that. People are a bit revved up about these guys not getting enough minutes in reserve grade because they're going to be on the bench for first grade, but maybe there's room for both. Like, maybe a Riley Pollard can play Reggie's, and then, if he's injured or too tired or whatever, well, then maybe Puru or someone else, if you want that role, like someone else can fill that role.
Yeah. And you can have Ice in there one week, but also too, like, for us to get to that point, mate, like, you're cutting out a Kafusi, you're cutting out a McKennis, you're cutting out Billy Burns.
You also need Ison. You need an Ison, for example, to have 10 to 15 New South Wales Cup games. He hasn't played a trial, so as an example of Ison.
But that's why I think Hiroti works really well because Hiroti can play center, wing, fullback.
I'm a fan of the extended bench. I like being able to be, obviously you can only use 4, in case you didn't know, you can only use 4, but you can have 6 guys. And I'm a fan of that. I think it should be like 20 guys.
It works well for us because we're in a unique spot where we have 20 first grade players that are good to go. So if everybody's fit, Daniel Atkinson does not play 20 games last season. Like, and that's not a shot at Acco. That's just more so we didn't have the injuries in the halves or different positions to justify having him on the bench. And that caused so much frustration in Sharks fans land. You've taken that away now for us. Now, depending on the game, we can roll out a Kafusi, or we could go, you know what, we need more leg speed here. Let's go Cam. Or there's an injury in the back row, chuck on Billy Burns. Like, we are uniquely placed for this. And it reminds me of 2016 when the rules changed around interchanges. And if you remember in 2015, Flano was actually running 3-man benches. So we were actually playing some games where the 4th guy didn't get on. So we actually had a squad that was used to playing with less players and playing longer minutes. So when 2016 rolled around, we were one of the few teams that had a back on the bench. Now, that became so important to us because what happened in the grand final, Fecky gets a HIA. We had Beal on the bench.
Was it HIA? No, he had his knee broken in 14 places.
A knee, yeah. I think it was Bakuya should have gone off for a HIA because Bakuya got knocked silly and somehow was able to...
I'm not laughing at that. Very serious, but yes. Whenever I hear the word Bakuya, I just smile.
If it happened today, like, Bakuya would have been straight off. Like, he would have been category 1. But he pushed on and played a great role for us.
Question. If it happened today, would your mate Maloney be penalised for that high shot on the winger coming back in?
Probably. Like, how many times have I watched that
golden point
face? Mate, what a stressful situation. But again, the point remains, the year that ends in 6s and changes to the benches.
I haven't heard that one. The year that ends in 6s. Look out. Now, before we get out of here, before we got to get out of here, we got one more thing to discuss, and that is 2026 NRL action. It's finally here, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Ocean Protect Stadium. It's going to be a big one. Josh Hannay and the Titans coming to town. They don't like playing the Sharks. We've won 11 of the past 12 games against them. The only loss coming in, Kieran?
2016.
No, 2024 against the in Coffs Harbour.
2016 they drew with them because I was in New Zealand.
They certainly did. They broke the streak, depending on how you look at the streak. Now, we have a very good record against them. That doesn't mean it's going to be an easy game, and I know you're here to tell us it won't be easy. I do want to address one thing, though, and that is our round one form. Now, here's a few things for you. Under Fitzy, we've won one of the opening 4 games. You know what that was? Just by chance. It's okay if you don't.
I was going to say his first year at the club.
We won in 2024, that great game against the Warriors away from home.
Oh, yes. I was away for that one. I was in America, but I did see the highlights and it looked amazing.
Great. Okay. So since 2010, we have the most round one losses, 13, and the worst win percentage.
Let's go.
If you go back to 03, so as far back as 03, it's the equal worst along with the Warriors. So
why do you have to bring up that 03 round one game? Like, that's the worst memory I have as a Sharks fan.
That's the worst memory. Geez, you're doing all right. Now, round one, not kind to us. Under Fitzy, though, 1 from 4.
Not selling it.
But then we go to the Titans, if you believe in round one stuff. They've won one of their past 7 round one games at Leichhardt 2023. They have the worst opening round record since 2019, so the last 6 years. So both teams don't like an early start. However, you know, we lost to Canberra in Canberra when Fitzy had COVID. That was a close enough game. We beat the Warriors. We lost to Penrith in Vegas, plus whatever else. So it's not, you know, it's fine. I just wanted to get that one out there early because I know everyone loves the round one kind of hoodoo. You can call it a hoodoo. You can call it whatever you want. Now, you want to talk about the Titans for just a little bit, please.
I think the Titans are going to be a really good side this year. And if you look at what Hannay has done there, he's replicating the Sharks. And 100%. He's taking all his learnings from what he's learned in the Shire, and he's taking it up there. The players that he has signed around the squad, like Max Bradbury and all that type of stuff, who might not be guys that are in there 17 every week, he has brought them into the fold to set a standard and to be somebody that he trusts to lift up the rest of the group. The way they played against the Storm was a really good performance by the Titans. This is like a grand final for the Titans. This is proof of the whole preseason under Hannay that everything they're doing makes sense. So they're going to front load this.
That's twice in the last 12 hours you've mentioned to me this is a grand final for the Titans.
I think
that's twice I've thought that's a little bit dramatic.
I think for them, if they go down to Shark Park and they do the Sharks, even in a tight game, right? Like, let's say they win by 2 points in Cronulla against a top side in the Sharks, which we believe that we are, their confidence will be sky high. If they
lose? It's not the end of the world.
You know what I'm saying? Though, if they come down to Cronulla and they get done by 30, they're going to be going, hang on a minute, that's not that far from a possibility, they seem. Like, we could put, like, we are a good side. Like, we could dust them. But I think it's a respect that I've got that I actually think that they're going to be a much improved side this year. And I don't think we're going to beat them by 30. I think it's going to be a close game. And I think the Titans are going to surprise a lot of teams this year. I would rather play the Titans in round 14 when they've gone through their ups and their downs and all that type of stuff versus the Titans that are trying to set a standard for their year. They come off a good win off the Sharks, I'll believe they can make the 8. If they don't put in a good performance against the Sharks, they're going to go back to the drawing board and start questioning themselves. Like, who is our 7? What do we do with Brimson? You know, who is our, like, they've got a lot of questions, right? And I think that the Titans can put on a really good performance for 80 minutes and try and set themselves up. Like, they will be front loading their energy into starting the season as well as possible. They might die off in the back end of the season, but this Titans team is going to start the year red hot. And I think under Hannay knows these Sharks players better than anybody else that's in NRL land.
Sure.
So this is going to be an interesting battle for us. And I don't think normally if you play the Titans, you kind of think, all right, we're going to get 2 points. It won't be tough. I think it's going to be tougher than what people expect. Is my point.
I agree. I can tell you they won both their preseason games. They beat the Dolphins at Redcliffe and they smashed the Storm on the Sunshine Coast. I don't think the Storm had too many first graders there, but they got the job done. Now they've got some amazing players. They've got our boy Jaden, who's just electric. They've got AJ. They've got a whole lot of guys who are really good. Now, yeah. So I don't think it's going to be easy. I'm always surprised when we do smash them by 30 or 40. It's like, that probably shouldn't happen. And maybe it's just as simple as a new coach. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Desi was really cutting edge by the end of his career. And you saw the change in Newcastle yesterday with a simple coaching change. You can see the change that'll come. On the Hannay thing, we know what he's like. So Fitzy knows what's coming in that sense. I know that your argument is very correct in that Hannay knows what's coming. But also don't forget that Fitzy will hopefully have a trick up his sleeve. And he knows what Hannay is going to do. And you're 100% right about the blueprint. Like he has gone there with blueprint Sharks 101 Fitzgibbon era. And that's what he's trying to replicate. And there's nothing wrong with that because we're a pretty successful team. It goes down to everything from the admin through to probably some of the way they play. So it's going to be a meeting of the minds, really. And who's going to play the best Shark brand of football on the day is what's going to win you the game. But I do like our stability. You saw in the second trial when all of our guys were out there, they really did click. Now, the Raiders didn't have a bunch of their starting spine, so it's a hard one to judge. But the Sharks looked really good with the first hit out. So I'm going in with confidence, but it's not one of those blind confidence where it's like, yeah, we're going to win by 30. It's like, no, I think we can get the job done, and I think we have to get the job done.
I think the whole point about trials, and I know that there were some people upset that we lost our first trial and all that type of stuff, but go back and watch the Gosford game. And in that trial, there was a couple of times where Trindle and Nakora were trying to combine for a couple of things. And Cooper Cronk on the commentary goes, you know what will work here? He goes, use Nakora as a decoy and hit Katoa over the top. Now, obviously, Trindle can't hear this, right? But he's in there real time, and there was a few runs where we mistimed and players didn't get in the right spots, all that type of stuff. But the next set of 6 that we had on the Raiders try line, Trindle over the top, Katoa goes through untouched, right? So that, again, is that level of connection, that level of belief that we have. And again, when you look at the Titans and everything coming out of their preseason, what is the one word they say nonstop about the Gold Coast at the moment coming out of there? Have you heard it?
Connection.
Connections, right?
But everyone's saying that.
It's becoming an NRL buzzword.
Did you hear the Lockie Galvin interview after the game yesterday? It might have been, I guess it was on Fox.
Yeah.
He said connection 3 times in one sentence.
Absolutely, right? And I'm not going to credit Fitz with coming up with this term or anything like that. But it's the methodology that this club has been using by having these guys that have come through the lower grades that had great success. They've won titles. And the connection that they have is what you saw in that Raiders game. Because Nakora overran one. I think there might have been a drop ball or a shepherd, or like it was a bit of a frustrating thing because you're watching this and you're going, this Raiders team is not their A-grade side and we're putting out our best players. But you could actually see it in real time, what they were working to do. And that gives me a lot of confidence that when we go into round 1 of this season, this is a group that is connected, that knows each other inside and out, that knows where to be. And if things don't go to the exact plan of hitting Nakora, who is like a rocket, for example, they know exactly where to be and what plays to use and what to do to fool the defense. So I do think the Sharks will win. I would like to hear your prediction on scorelines, though, Sam. What do you think the score is going to be on Saturday? This is something we don't do. We never talk about this.
Yeah, we're waiting for that big gambling company to come on board. Then we can do it non-stop. And then the audience will turn on us for being bad for society. I think that we'll win by at least 10 points. I don't think it'll be like uber worryingly close, but I think it'll be close enough. So if you wanted to put a margin, I would think, as in like not from a gambling point of view, but just in general, I think it would be 8 to 10 points up to maybe 14. I don't see it being a blowout. And it's round 1. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few tries scored from each team. I mean, maybe I'm looking at 24-17 16 or something like that, 24-12.
That's what I was thinking. In the middle of the year, I kind of expect the Sharks to limit teams to 2 to 3 tries. So like maybe a 26, 24 to 10 win. I think given it's so early in the season, I don't know what the weather's going to be like on Saturday. I'll check that now. But
it's going to be raining a little bit.
Is it really? Oh my goodness!
Shark Park, Ocean Protect Stadium. That's where we go. We go to get wet.
60% chance of rain, 22 to 25. So it's going to be humid. There'll be a bit of drop ball around. Yeah,
give us. Say again.
24-16. I reckon the Sharks get up.
So we're kind of on line with that. Just on that point, without getting too crazy and everyone, we need to sell this game out. And I'm led to believe right now there is a ticket available. I'm not sure how many. But round 1, 5:30 on a Saturday, get down there if you can. I'm not getting political. I know some people can't afford it. I know some people can't get off the lounge. I know people have a lot of stuff going on in their lives. We all do. You and I got a million things going on. Our listeners do. Our viewers do. But I'm just saying, if you have the ability to get down there and watch the game, go do it. Like, it's a lot of fun, win, lose, or draw. And you really should be, in my opinion only, supporting the team in that way if you can. I know people can't. I'm not down on those people. But I'd be pretty disappointed I'd be disappointed from a lot of different perspectives, and for a lot of different perspectives, if this game wasn't officially a sellout, given we know how many it takes to sell out this game. And I also understand there's not many traveling. I get that, but that's no excuse.
Anyway. It's one of those things where I haven't seen a lot around the Shire at the moment around round 1. And sure. This is not just a Sharks thing. This is kind of like I'm in a bunch of tipping comps. And I feel like, I was in a tipping comp last year with my gym. There was 80 people signed up to it. This year there was 18. I feel like the season has kind of snuck up on people this year. Maybe. And I don't know, that's because I've been in Vegas for the last 2 years for the season kicking off, and this is how it's kind of been. But it feels like a lot of people aren't realizing tomorrow is Team List Tuesday. Like, there's a game on Thursday night. Like, it's here. Like, let's
good game on Thursday night, Brisbane Penrith. And I will be dropping, all being well, obviously. Never know what's going to happen, but all being well, I will be dropping a Team List Tuesday live stream if you want to jump on. Kieran, we've got to get out of here, but appreciate your time. Now, we will try and get another one out of you next week. We're not going to promise you that, but Kieran's got a few traveling commitments, which is awesome. But we will try for the Monday. We'll just see how, we'll do our best. That's what we're going to say to you, because... And even if you and I kind of do it on the Sunday, and we'll work it out, because we need to get reaction from round 1. So we hope to see you all down at the game. If you can't be there, we'll be going live afterwards as soon as we can. A lot more episodes coming this week. So stay with us. Haven't done it yet. Spruiking, like, subscribe, share. You know my drill. It really helps us, and it'll benefit you because you get to get our latest stuff straight away. So. Up Cronulla, we love the Sharks. This has been Kieran and Shanaz, and we will talk to you all soon. Up Cronulla. Thanks, Kieran.